If you enjoyed the video or any other content on the channel, feel free to subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and we got boarding actions coming soon. This video is an overview of the Adeptus Custodes Boarding Actions Detachment Voyagers in the Darkness. I will show the units we can select from when we use this detachment. I go over the Army Rule, Detachment Rule, Enhancements, and Stratagems for this detachment. Finally, a list with a general game plan of what we want to do with this list. When you're making a list using the Voyagers in the Darkness detachment, you can use these rules to build a 500 points list using the current Minotaurum points. For characters, we can have up to 2 of the following units. Duplicates are not allowed. We can have a Blade Champion, a Infantry Shield Captain, Trajan Valorous, or Valerian. Then we can have up to 3 of the following units: Custodian Guard with 4 or 5 models, up to 1 of the following units, either 2 or 3 Alaris Custodians or 4 or 5 Wardens. And then finally up to 1 of each of the following units: Prosecutors 5 or 10, Witch Seekers 5 or 10, and then Vigilators a 5 or 10 unit. There are some rule adaptations when using the Adeptus Custodes Voyagers in the Darkness detachment. Adeptus Custodes units cannot perform the Secure Sites tactical maneuvers, so you can't sticky objectives with the Adeptus Custodes unit. The Alaris lose the From Golden Light ability, that's the redeploy. The Blade Champion model loses the Martial Inspiration ability, that was the advance and charge. And then the Shield Captain model loses the Master of Stances ability, so that was the both stances for a turn ability. The Adeptus Custodes Army Rule is a little bit different with boarding actions. So Focus Kata, units from your army with the Martial Kata ability retain that ability and gain this one. So for reference, the Martial Kata ability is each time a unit from your army with this ability is selected to fight, select one of your Kata stances. Until the unit has finished making its attacks, the selected stance is active for it and it gains the relevant ability. Dakatari stance, melee weapons equipped by models in this unit have the Sustain Hits 1 ability, or Rendak stance for melee weapons equipped by models in this unit have the Lethal Hits ability. There is quite a bit of difference with the Focus Kata ability, so yes, you still get the Martial Kata ability, however, you no longer select a Kata stance each time a unit with the Martial Kata ability is selected to fight. Instead, at the start of the fight phase, you can select one Kata stance. Till the end of the phase, the selected stance is active for your army, and units from your army with the Kata ability gain the relevant ability. Each Kata stance can only be selected once per battle. So basically, Kata is army-wide, and we can only use each of these 2 stances once per game. Also, the stance only lasts for that phase. So for example, we use lethal hits in one fight phase of battle round 2, and then we pick sustain hits army-wide in one fight phase of battle round 4. The Voyagers in the Darkness detachment rule is called Overwhelming Magnificence. While an enemy unit is within engagement range of 1 or more Adeptus Custodes units from your army, subtract 1 from the objective control characteristic of models in that enemy unit. And this does not seem to have a minimum of 1 restriction, making it a pretty good detachment rule. I could be wrong on this, I'm not 100% sure, but it does look like we could bring down units to a possible 0 OC. Next, we'll go over all the core enhancements that you could choose from when picking a list. So if you have the Shield Captain or the Blade Champion, you can pick from this list. First up, we have Trademark Weapon. When you select this enhancement, select one ranged weapon equipped by the bearer, excluding torrent weapons, and make a note of this on your army roster. Add 1 to the strength and damage characteristic of that weapon. Then there's Superior Boarding Tactics. You start the battle with 2 CP. Close Quarters Killer. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, you can re-roll the wound roll. Then we have Expert Breacher. The bearer's unit can attempt to operate a hatchway at the start or end of the move step of your movement phase. The bearer's unit cannot attempt to operate more than 1 hatchway per turn though. Then there is Peerless Leader. Once per battle, the bearer can be targeted with the Battlefield Command Stratagem for 0 CP, even if you have already targeted a different unit with that stratagem this phase. Then finally, we have Personal Teleporter, and that just gives the bearer the Deep Strike. When you select this detachment, you can also choose from 2 detachment-specific enhancements. For Voyagers in the Dark, we have Void Strider, and this is add 2 to the bearer's movement characteristic, and then Mantle of the Emissary. The bearer has an objective control characteristic of 5. These are kind of meh in my book, but you never know. We might be able to do something with that add 2 to the move characteristic in a future list. Now we will go through all of the stratagems that we have available to the Voyagers in the Darkness Detachment. We'll start with the 5 core stratagems first. First up, we have Battlefield Command for 1 CP. At the start or end of any phase, 1 leader unit from your army and 1 friendly bodyguard unit within 6 inches of it. Select one of your leader unit's leader abilities until the start of your next command phase. That bodyguard unit is treated as being led by that leader unit for the purposes of the leader ability. There is a restriction with this one. Once you target a unit with this stratagem, that unit cannot be targeted with it again until the next command phase. So you can't double up on this, putting 2 different abilities on 1 unit. Next, we have the simple counteroffensive for 2 CP in the fight phase. Just after an enemy unit has fought, you can fight next. Next one is a new one for boarding actions, Explosive Clearance for 1 CP, a battle tactic. In your shooting phase, 1 unit from your army that has not selected to shoot this phase. Select 1 model in your unit that is equipped with a weapon with the blast ability. Until the end of the phase, when determining how many models are in the target unit for the purpose of that ability, you can include models that are not visible to the attacking model. In addition, attacks made with that weapon can be allocated to models that are not visible to the attacking model. Insane Bravery for 1 CP is Epic Deed. In the Battle Shock step of your command phase, just after you failed a Battle Shock test taken for the unit from your army, your unit is treated as having passed that test instead and is not Battle Shocked as the result. And there's no restrictions with boarding actions in Insane Bravery. In regular 40k, you can only use this before you roll your Battle Shock test, and you can only use it once per game. Boarding actions, it looks like you can use it multiple times per game and after you have failed that Battle Shock. And then finally, the simple command reroll. So you can reroll the hit, wound roll, damage roll, all those fine things. 1 CP, you can reroll that test or saving throw. Now let's go through the Voyagers in the Darkness Detachment stratagems. First, we have Artificer Rounds for 1 CP. It is a battle tactic. In your shooting phase, 1 Adeptus Custodes unit that has been not selected to shoot this phase. To the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit, excluding those ballistic grenade launchers on the Alaris, have the Sustain Hits 1 ability, while targeting units within 6 inches. Next is Orc Storm for 1 CP and a strategic ploy. In your charge phase, just after an Alaris unit from your army ends a charge move. Each enemy unit within engagement range of your unit must take a Battle Shock test, subtracting 1 from the result. Then we have Breaching Behemoths for 1 CP, strategic ploy, and I like this one. In your movement phase, 1 Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding Psychona units that has been not selected to move this phase, until the end of the phase, each time your unit makes a normal, advance, or fallback move, models in your unit can move through other models as if they were not there. In addition, any desperate escape tests taken for those models in that unit are automatically passed. This looks like we can go through our own friendly models and enemy models. So this is neat. You might be able to kind of go through some chaff to get at some characters with our Alaris or something like that. I like this one. This is another neat one too, an Escapable Vengeance for 1 CP, strategic ploy. In your movement phase, 1 Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding Psychona unit that has not been selected to move this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a pile-in or consolidate move, it can ignore walls or other models for the purposes of determining which units are visible to its own. It seems to be a mistake on this one since pile in and consolidate are done at the end of the fight phase, not in the movement phase. So this should be until the end of the turn. This just doesn't work in the movement phase. There's no way to pile and consolidate in the movement phase. That is done after the fight phase. So I'll play this like it says, end of the turn. Now let's go through the example list for this detachment. For my Warlord, I have Trajan Valoris for 150 points. 4 Custodian Guard, all with the Sentinel Blades and the Presidium Shields for 180 points, 2 Alaris Custodians with Guardian Spears for 130 points, and then a group of Prosecutors for 40 points, for a total of 500 points. Now for a few tips and tricks for this list. Trajan Valoris, the fact that he can use his Moment Shackle makes him really scary in boarding actions. We can use Breaching Behemoths to move him quickly around the board, hunting down characters or tough enemy units. We can use that Breaching Behemoths just to move him through chaff and stuff like that. The Custodian Guard, I have put the Sword and Shields on this unit to give me a very tanky unit with decent melee. The Sentinel Blade has the same shots as a Guardian Spear. No Vexilla, since we do have a good detachment rule to help lower the enemy OC. A Vexilla might not be required for this list. Time will tell though. It will give me 8 total shots, the most of any of my Custodes units, making them the best target for Artificer rounds for 1 CP, especially with the reroll wounds of 1 or the wound roll if on objective we control. For the Alar's Custodians, like Trajan, we can use Breaching Behemoths and Escapable Vengeance to hunt down the enemy warlord and characters. The Alars still have access to Slayer of Tyrants for reroll the wound roll against characters, vehicles, and monster units. Not going to be many vehicles, but characters. These are going to be prime character hunters. They can also cause Battle Shock with Auric Storm for 1 CP, which could come in handy depending on what kind of defensive stratagems the opponent has. Then finally, Prosecutors, we need someone to stand on objectives and hold objectives. Sadly, they are Adeptus Custodes units, so they cannot sticky objectives with secure sites, so they are going to stand on objectives. That will be the weakness of this list, is just getting on objectives, but we can't sticky them, and there's only so many points we can have. I still think this is a well-rounded list. Now for some final thoughts. This was an overview video. I did not want to focus on the list as much as the actual detachment. Dedicated list videos will be coming out in between, covering the many different detachments for the boarding actions. Trajan looks to be a beast in boarding actions. At first I was not impressed by the stratagems, but the more I thought of ways to use them, the better they got. Battle reports are coming very soon now. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If there's something I missed or you have any questions, throw it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by.